creative moment, season finale of season 8, and also, no, not quite. We'll have one right before the new year.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how we played it last time. Okay.
Yeah.
Dante Bullhauer, Jamie Bullhauer, your two hosts. We've been here for all 80 episodes, and we'll be here for
That's
all
true.
of us.
We've never had a sub.
No. A couple of hosts, or a couple of guests.
Yes,
couple of
yep.
nice guests. But yeah, let's get right into it. This is our faux pas Christmas edition-ish.
Yeah, you don't have your Santa hat already. Oh,
Do I still have it?
I don't know. We were trying to find it. Okay, now we're doing live. Yeah, so we have this traditional Santa hat, and we have not been able to find it as our daughters and stuff have, concerts and stuff like that. And I actually think that last Christmas special one, he wore the Santa hat.
All we got is a stocking.
Oh, well, okay. I don't know. I don't know where it went.
I might have it in the other closet.
Oh, well.
I don't know. But anyway, let's get right into it. Pretty good. So today we are kind of giving our year in review of 2024, mostly creative, and then at the end, stick to the end, and we'll give you kind of within our respective creative industries a gift that you could give. Yeah, a gift idea that you could give.
Because there's still quite a few shopping days left.
Yeah, just probably don't buy it online. It probably won't get there.
Yeah, or you got to pay like double the price of the just to get it shipped in 3 days.
December 24th.
Yeah.
So yeah, year in review. Do we want to do like 3 kind of overarching themes? Do we want to chunk it chronologically?
Oh, I don't know if I can handle chronological.
That's fair. Okay.
Like, remember chronological. Yeah,
That's fair. So yeah, kind of overarching, either things that we learned or just kind of themes that we've discovered, that type of thing with our year. I'll go first. I will say probably the most potent kind of theme that I have learned is you have to keep finding ways to be passionate. Passion is not a, I guess, one-dimensional emotion. There are, like, I've talked about this on my other Almost Dead podcast, where my passion for the creative world and what I create has changed since the beginning of when I started creating to now. And finding ways that keep that passion burning that maybe aren't exactly the same ways that your passion burned in previous years or previous kind of stints of creativity. So this year, last year, and kind of bleeding into this year was traveling. I love to travel, that type of thing. This year has really been just about focusing on fulfilling other people's buckets, that like a two-way street type thing. So doing the projects that I know I'll get positive feedback, or at least that I can connect with the client, that type of thing, but also the ones that I am at least somewhat fulfilled doing. I stopped taking weddings this year. I took on 0 weddings. I have cut down some other aspects, not fully cut out, but just figuring out financials, how to replace that income. But I did around 32 or 34, 35, some in the 30s of hype videos this year, where last year I was kind of filling those in with maybe more family photos or different types of projects. So just kind of finding the clients and the jobs that I know they are grateful for and that they will fill my bucket emotionally, but also that job fulfilling me emotionally. Where when I first started out, I was fulfilled by literally any type of creation. Like
and then anything. You found out weddings.
Yeah, and then I did like 3 weddings. I'm like, I'm not really fulfilled by this. This is not what I want to do.
You have to learn that.
Right, you have to learn what you don't like too.
Yes,
so
that's true.
That was kind of the theme of this year, and learning. It takes kind of that trial and error of learning which clients or what types of jobs are that two-way street of fulfillment with that creative project.
So a follow-up question in regards of how finding the passion stuff. How about connected to your skill set? So I was actually just thinking about, because I had texted you, hey, I saw the video, I think your junior year when you did state volleyball, and there was the drawing part. Yeah. And then noticed that one of your hype videos for the intro of the season brought that back. It was a little bit different. It was like, I hadn't seen that skill. And even though it's probably an easy thing to do, I hadn't seen that design, I guess, or effect. And then it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. So how does actually even working within the skill set, because I know that you keep learning and stuff, but sometimes there's some fundamental stuff. How does your skill set and keeping in mind help connect to your passion?
Yeah, when you have, I feel like I have a pretty widespread array of skills across photo, video, graphic design, and it's kind of funny that you say that, because the last couple graphics that I have made, whether it's a game day graphic or whatever, I've used the paper tears, which was one of my first things in Photoshop that I really felt that I like kind of honed in and mastered how to use that effect. And so I think kind of keeping that fine tune of like always learning, but also leaning back on what you enjoyed in the first place. If I did that for every project now, I'd get burnt out super easy. But when I was hitting a rut, 35 hype videos in a couple weeks, it's really hard to make them different, and they don't always want them to be different than all other 34. Because
you have customers, so you have to you do have to fulfill their wants or needs too. So
the communities aren't going to see typically both hype videos, whatever. So thinking back to what I first enjoyed about those hype videos and what I was like, oh, this would be a cool idea. This would be a cool idea for the graphic. I went back and I was like, oh, well, I used to do the drawing thing. The clients liked the whole drawing thing. And then the paper tears, like knowing the balance of, do I always need to be pushing the envelope and doing something new? And also coming back and saying, when I was in that rut, what did I really enjoy doing about hype videos X amount of years ago? And that was what I kind of came up with. And I also incorporated one of the new things I tried last year. Are you referencing the Centura video?
No, actually, a drawing around the basketball for GIC. Grand Island Gish. Yeah.
So like it was purple,
which matched, but it was cool. It was like, oh.
Yeah. Yep. So for Centura, I did kind of the same thing. I guess he didn't post it. The girls' video didn't have it. But there was an effect that I learned for the state football videos last year that I put in, matching with the drawing clip. So then it's kind of the new and the old, making something that's different, but still that I hadn't done before, but had done both those individual effects before.
Yeah, because sometimes and as you're talking, I was thinking about I have a new poem I just wrote that I'm saving to share on the jam on Thursday. But it's kind of the same thing. It's more of it feels kind of like a poem would have written in college, but yet it's got the new, it's kind of meant for spoken word slam, and it's got that flavor to it, but it's not classical forms that I learned or anything. And so it kind of meshes the vibe of how I used to write in college with a little bit of my skill set that I've been working on and stuff. So it's kind of don't forget your foundation. Yeah. Don't forget your foundation. Go back and do that. So connected and mentioned it actually in the last video also to a degree about being thankful, but writing from some deep emotional aspects this year, and doing some of my workshops and sharing poetry and sharing some of that stuff that connected with the people at the library workshops and stuff, and how it doesn't mean your work still has to be good. It still has to be good, but man, if you really just hit from the whatever emotion that you're trying for, whether it's joyful or depressing or sad, like it matters. It comes across, and just sadly, it's just been that type of time for a while that a lot of these things are coming from a more sad point, but it still builds bridges. And it really was one of the workshops in Western Nebraska, to see some of these people. Then they wanted to share and some of their poems, and I've blogged about those experiences. Like the one lady who just had the yellowed paper, she just wanted to share. It's at the end of the day, this is the one thing that technology and AI and stuff it can't do it. It can't do it. It cannot be emotional, and it can create a vibe. It can create tones, but real art is a part of who we are. That's where we've always stood in our definition, and this year has really actually highlighted the importance of that and creating whether again positive or negative areas. It really does change what you produce, and I think it builds better bridges for people who view or read or whatever.
Yeah, and like we mentioned a few episodes back, if you draw from a shallow emotion or like just kind of a shallower place, it comes across to the consumer, whether consciously or subconsciously. So when you draw from that like pure raw emotion, again, good or bad, the consumer can feel it. Like they physically can feel and tap into that emotion, where if it's just kind of more of a shallow, half-hearted effort, it doesn't really, like they can understand what you're saying but not feel what you're saying.
And they might enjoy it, but it won't be remembered. It won't be something that they can remember, next day or something like that.
Yeah. Like TikTok.
Yeah.
Even though I
which might be I guess is getting banned.
Well, I know
it's a whole
conversation
kind of
for another day,
okay.
I feel like it's too big to fail at this point. But anyway, my second one that I am always reminded of around this time of year is just stopping to reflect on how far you have come. And there's a lot of imposter syndrome in the creative world. I'm not as good as them because they have this many followers, or I'm not as good as them because they're a New York Times bestseller, whatever. But when I stop and look at kind of my year, and I usually do this like Christmas Eve, I'll just write down kind of the year in review type thing. I always sit there and I'm like, you're one guy, and I have a ton of support, but for the most part, you're one guy. Doing
the tax, doing the bookwork, planning, scheduling.
Yeah, email. Like, if I were to write down stats of 35 hype videos in 2 weeks is just an insane number. On top of the other jobs that I had before that I pick up during busy season with all the seniors. In the winter, I always feel like January when I haven't had a couple jobs for a couple weeks. I'm like, we got to start hustling again, which is probably not always healthy, but just sitting back and reflecting and saying, you know what, maybe I probably won't achieve my money I made in a year goal. I'll be kind of close, but I probably won't get there. But kind of the cliche, it's about the journey, not the destination thing. I am proud of everything that I did throughout the year, knowing that I, as much as I could, put my best foot forward, put the best product forward, tried to be creative and fulfilled and fulfill other people's buckets and things like that. And if you don't stop to do that, I definitely need to do it a lot more. But if you don't stop to do that at least a couple times a year, you just lose that sense of direction. And that's kind of when your creativity can maybe go off a bridge and you just don't really know why you're doing it anymore.
Yeah. And I'm always jealous because a lot of your work and the stuff that you produce for your customers, I know that some of your personal things that really ignite you, like your landscaping and stuff, isn't. But just being on the outside, there are a lot. You have some people who just love your work.
Yeah.
And
Shout out Jay-Z.
but you produce really good work too, and you should be proud of that. But they're excited to, like, in one way, start basketball season so they can get the new video made and do.
And I'm sitting here like I just got done with football, and they've been sitting there waiting for a couple of weeks to get that hype video shot.
But and it's hard. Like, people really don't. Even writers is like the creative world is. There's a lot of hard work. But yeah, if you don't pay attention, in fact, my second one is a little bit connected to that. I'll get in a second. But you have to. You got to appreciate, what you've done. And sometimes you don't reach the goals. I don't sell that many books. It can be disheartening when to look at that. But then there's all these other just everyday things that that your work is out there. People are excited to share. People see it and again, you get that feedback a little bit more than I do. But you do. You should appreciate that. And some of that is just good mental and physical, just to relax and enjoy, what you've done. And connected to my second one is not to stress out. Like, I still have not written those blog posts I talked about. I think it's like
6 or something.
Like, I still have the ideas, and I just did release a blog post, my Christmas letter type of thing. But and then the time for other aspects of my life just took over. But I didn't really wig out about it. I didn't, just like, it's okay. You're doing, what needs to be done. I have other family, and being a dad and a husband is like the number one. That's my number one. And so that will always take precedent over stuff, and I'm okay. Now I have my goals. I've already been thinking about 2025, and want to do better. But as long as you are authentic to what you are trying to do with your life and your creative world and your relationships and stuff, you don't have to stress out if you didn't quite get where you wanted to go.
There's a graph that I'll see every once in a while on like Instagram. Not really, it's like a football graph, whatever, but it's like your best is not equal every day, and it talks about kind of like consistency, whatever. But you could go day, week, month, year. There are some years where you kill it, everything clicks, and there are a ton of outside factors that lead into that you may not always notice. You typically remember the negative ones more than the positive ones, so that you don't always notice those positive ones. But just knowing that you're giving close to your best, whatever that is, it isn't always what your best was or will be or was yesterday or will be tomorrow. And just understanding that can help you not wig out about it every day and be like, oh, I wrote 2 blogs yesterday, I haven't wrote one for a week. Like, success and just happiness and that type of stuff is not linear.
Yeah.
And so keeping that in mind will hopefully help. That's something that takes real just kind of thought day to day to be able to be kind of level-headed.
Yeah.
About that.
And I was just saying, I read this book, and it's a graphic novel about Albert Einstein getting the factor of gravity solved for E equals mc squared. And it took him I think 3 years to finally get the experiment done. That's a lot. And he was getting some feedback that your theory is wrong. And it was a really cool graphic novel. I'm sorry, I totally kind of forgot the title, but it's just I was reading it and going holy cow! It took so long because he had to wait for, I think, a lunar eclipse or some specific thing. Sorry, we are live. It just came to mind, and I'm I can't imagine waiting just to get that final experiment proven so that it helps.
That's like once every 4 or 5.
It was something because it was about how the light of stars would bend over the horizon, like at different locations. I'm messing it up. I'm sorry. I'll try to, but it was really cool. But it really, like, I did not know that. I did not know he had to deal with people. Like, he was getting negative, like, you're wrong, and he presented and this one experiment had to wait like 3 years to get this experiment done to help prove. So you just, you got to do with what you can. Being consistent, obviously, that's the important part, and not wigging out if it all goes up and down, because life does. That's the way life is.
Yeah. Mine's similar. My last one kind of is failure is not permanent or kind of all ending. And this kind of bleeds into last year, and I've talked about it at length, but it was later in the year, and I still wasn't really like over it or like, I guess, fully past it. And even just financially, it took a while to get back to where I was like, okay, it probably till about June, where I was like, now we can. That's when I got in the positives for the year. I think was in. So it took half the year to even kind of recover, and the IRS has a lot to do with that too. Thanks, guys. But that, and again, outside factors played a part, but that was professionally the absolute lowest point I've been in thus far. Had a scare the other day, but it was a moment where it felt overwhelming, and it felt like that was the end all be all. Like that's a mistake that you don't come back from. And it absolutely can be, but whether it is or not is up to you. And that's
how you handle it.
Right.
Like how you handle it. It's a cliche, but
yeah,
the way you handled it helped.
I handled it poorly for about 2 weeks, and then I remember I was sitting on the couch, and I just had the TV on mute, and I'm just sitting here. I'm like, is this seriously going to be how the story ends? Like, no, like it can't be. So that literally, like that next day, I got up and I'm like, forget it. Like at that point, I think that was the night I sent the last like email or whatever. I was like, that there's nothing that's going to change that anymore. You got to just start moving on. And I felt that resiliency was something that really helped me this year, where I wasn't as much freaking out about just the problem and sulking in the problem as much. It was purely, all right, this sucks. Let's like fix it. So you don't just sit in that kind of pool of despair, because it can absolutely end things. And so like I had a very similar thing happen like a week ago, and instead of kind of sulking, I went to my office and I prayed, and then I got on the computer with Apple support, tried to figure things out, and then like I spent the whole night just trying to find a solution instead of worrying about the problem and just thinking, well, you know what, this might do it. And I just feel like throughout the year, whether it be getting kicked out of a room at State with all my equipment in it, stuff like that, I did a better job of not just kind of, well, okay, and instead just like, okay, let's just figure out a way to either Jimmy rig this together or to completely solve the problem. And that has helped me be less overwhelmed about 35 hype videos in a couple weeks. All these families emailing me about something that happened a week ago. Like, I can, sometimes it still, gets me, but it's never like, okay, this is going to be it now.
Yeah.
It's just, let's just move past it, see where it goes in the future.
Yeah. Total English teacher moment, because I've actually talked about Keats's poem, Ode to a Nightingale, before, but that poem comes from a moment where he thought it was he had personal things happen. The critics hated his second book of poetry. He was like, this life sucks, and ends up writing probably the poem that most lots of people know him for. He has other ones, if you're into literature, Keith. But I'm just saying, like, that's the one that's in literary books and everything. And it does, and it does feel like, well, this is it, but it's not. The next day comes, and you either can sulk, and sadly, I think a lot of people write their own ending at that point instead of, okay, this is what I can do. That's all I can do, and do it, and then just build the next day and continue to move forward.
And not saying that it doesn't take time, because it
does take time.
But like we've talked about, let yourself feel that, and then whether it's a day, a week, whatever, but it can't end it altogether. It just can't. At some point, you have to sit there and be like, where are we going to use this as a stepping stone to the next thing instead of just drowning in the water?
Yeah. And that's life too. But, the third thing for review really is a little bit, we've had a couple guests. I think we're going to have a couple more. I've got some ideas for the next season or new. And it's the acknowledgement or understanding that there is a lot of people who are in the creative world, and everybody has got their stories. And I'm actually kind of proud. One of our guests was very successful, and they're retired now, but they're very successful. And in a way, they seem to be really enjoying just being creative for themselves. Our other guest, Kevin, kind of an indie author. He does other stuff, but he's just kind of really happy in what he wasn't trying to. He would love to sell all his books, but and it's like our creative expression for the podcast just gave them a moment to share that. Other people, and it's just kind of cool to be in the overall community and doing things and helping out when we can, making a difference, but also just creating so that we add to the world with it. So it's been that's been fun. So
I always enjoy just talking the creative space with anybody. That's why, like I've said, one of the only people I talk to every single day is a creative, because we just talk back and forth about creativity most of the time. And when you are a net positive in any space, you will find more net positives are attracted to that, because there's so much negativity swirling around everywhere. Those pockets of positivity are just kind of harder to come by. And so not that we gave them an opportunity, they gave us an opportunity to talk to them as well. But it's when you're positive and you're in a positive space and you have other positive people with you, it just makes for a better all-around environment. And even just positive feelings, whether it's about creativity or not, can spark just kind of that creative jewel. Talking to KP was a little inspirational, maybe it's cool what he does. I like, his kind of genre. It makes me want to just go create, just kind of to create almost. And so having a creative kind of support group, if you will, whatever, that is uplifting and not, net zero, net negative, that type of thing, can be really helpful just in your overall mental health, but your creative mental health as well. So those are our overarching things. We'll finish up kind of quickly with Christmas gift ideas in our respective industries, or just a creative kind of cool thing. So do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll go first, because mine is a little abstract. So gift buying ideas. So if you have a creative that's on your list, think of getting them something that would challenge them in their field a little bit differently. So, for example, you get somebody who paints. Well, get them those small canvases, not the big ones or a big sketch, like something that's different but still in their field, and like maybe and some prompt words or something to go. If it's a writer, get them like a big oversized thing, or an old school like ink pen, just like something that's in their field, but yet says the gift itself makes it a challenge for them to fulfill their creative muse. I personally would love that. Like that would be, or if it's a photographer, get them a Polaroid camera and have them, or the disposable ones.
Yeah.
They still have those. They still have them. And just say, hey, record, take a photo every day for a month, or, something along that line, because that ignites their creative side. It also is unique in the sense that there's probably not something they may have thought about. You've thought about, old school or film photography, but a lot of the times we will not actually buy that stuff or anything because we're in our focus zone. This is what I know. I will always buy notebooks and get them filled. I don't think of I don't honestly that would be fun and try to learn that. So my suggestion for Christmas shopping is something that challenges that creative in their field, and can spark their muse and things like that. And even if you give them the instructions of like what it should do, like a photo every day with a disposable camera, they'll do it. Like I think they'll be like, okay, yeah, and then they can share it with you, and you're building bridges. You're like it just all dominoes in a very positive way.
Yeah, I like that. Like those mini canvases right there, even though mine sucks, but mine is kind of similar where you can kind of kill two birds with one stone. If your photographer friend, it's kind of photo specific, but whatever.
That's okay.
If your photographer friend or graphic design friend sells prints, or you have some of their files maybe or something, you can either print those off or buy one of their prints, gift it back to them, because I know like that'd be a kind of cool thing if someone sent me a print of mine and was like, here just for you to have, whatever. Or you can gift it to someone else, and like I don't sell prints currently. It's a goal of mine down the road, but that feels really good because very few people are successful landscape photographers that are able to sell those prints, things like that. So typically if there's someone that shoots landscapes, or I know some graphic design friends that sell their like NBA, NFL level people that sell their graphics, buying that is kind of a gift in itself just to feel that support, and then framing it and giving it to them, or giving it to someone else that would appreciate it. And then that builds kind of a three-way connection between the shooter, the person that bought the print, and then the person that you give it to, if you all kind of know each other. It's a really cool thing. I think everybody could probably use more art in their house for the most part. And it does, like, it feels really good to me when people, like my girlfriend's brother, for example, came in here and wants to buy my landscape photos to put them up in his house. And that's a really cool feeling for me, because that's not really a part of my business that I really excel is the wrong word, but really market. And so to have something that I did just for myself that other people really appreciate is cool. And then obviously if it's a cool print that people will enjoy, gifting it to someone else.
Yeah. And it's amazing in our technological world, and we got all these photos and that because I've seen you gift people, pictures, but also know of that sense of making photo albums. Like the physical world still matters in art. It does. And so even photography and things like that, the getting and having textual connection to a print or a photo is an amazing thing. People still it still matters.
Or like a physical book versus
Yeah.
ebook, things
Yeah.
like that.
It still matters. It does, even though it's a tough digital world right now. It still makes a big difference as a gift. So
Yeah. Not to say buy prints for me, give them to somebody else. Not a marketing play, but anyway.
well, I have books too. Okay, there we go.
Digital
We're
and
ruining the
physical,
Christmas spirit there.
Buy our stuff, please. Anyway, that was our season finale of season 8. Not our year finale. We'll still have one more, I think, coming up. I think we talked about it'll be released
on New Year's Eve.
So stay tuned to that. But this was our season 8 finale. We hope to see you guys in a couple weeks. Again, we're on YouTube, Spotify, all the places. I'm pretty sure we're back on Apple.
Oh, I haven't checked.
Okay.
I haven't checked. Trying to get ready for semester exams.
But look for us everywhere. As always, we appreciate your guys' support and everything. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.